Rain fell hard over the metal streets of Varaxis 3. Neon lights reflected in the puddles as ships passed overhead, their engines leaving glowing trails in the dark sky. Inside the Ironfang bar, the noise was loud, too loud. Laughter mixed with the clinking of glasses. Music pounded from old speakers, and the smell of cheap alcohol filled the air. The place was full of aliens from different worlds. Tall ones with horns, short ones with green skin, insect-like creatures clicking their jaws, and a few humans too. At the center table sat a young alien woman with silver hair tied loosely behind her back. Her armor was scratched, her eyes bloodshot. She was from the Zareth warrior clan, a race known for pride, honor, and skill with a blade. Tonight she didn't look proud. She looked broken. One empty bottle stood before her. Then another, and another. Human alcohol burned her throat, but she kept drinking. Her hand shook slightly each time she poured another glass. People watched her carefully. A Zareth warrior drinking like this? Alone? Something was wrong. The human waiter came again. He looked simple, dark hair, plain shirt, tired eyes. Just a man doing his job in a city that never slept. "Miss," he said softly, "I think you should stop now." She looked up, eyes unfocused. Then she laughed. A harsh, bitter sound. "Stop," she said. "Do you know who I am, human? I fought battles before you learned to walk. I've seen worlds burn. Bring me another drink." The waiter hesitated. He'd served all kinds before. Pirates, smugglers, soldiers, but this one was different. There was pain in her eyes, the kind that even strong warriors couldn't hide. He sighed and turned to get another bottle. When he returned, she grabbed his wrist before he could set it down. Her grip was like iron. "Who are you?" she slurred, staring at his chest instead of his face. The man looked confused. "Just a waiter, miss. That's all." But before he could pull away, she moved fast. With a sudden, sharp motion, she ripped his shirt open. The fabric tore loudly. The bar went silent. Her drunken grin faded. Her eyes widened in shock. Because there, glowing faintly on the human's chest, was a symbol. Not a tattoo. Not a scar. Something older, deeper, burned into his flesh long ago. The shape was unmistakable, sharp angles, a circle with 3 lines crossing through it. The crest of the Terran vanguard. Her heart stopped. Every child in the galaxy knew the stories. Long ago, before the alien empires rose to power, there were humans who commanded fleets so powerful they crushed entire star systems. They were warriors who didn't surrender, didn't retreat. The galaxy united to destroy them, or so history claimed. But if one still lived, if even one carried the mark, it would mean humanity had hidden strength the galaxy never knew about. The waiter, no, the man, calmly pulled his shirt closed. His face stayed blank, unreadable. "Sit down," he said softly. His voice wasn't loud, yet it carried weight. The alien girl stumbled back, suddenly sober. She had faced warlords, assassins, even monsters from deep space. But standing here, looking at this simple human, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Fear. Whispers spread through the bar. "Did you see that? It can't be real. Can it? Terran Vanguard. That's just a myth." The girl's hands trembled. Her people had fought against the strongest enemies in the galaxy. But this, if the stories were true, if the Terran Vanguard were real, everything would change. The man didn't move. He just looked at her with calm, steady eyes. And then the door slammed open. Alien soldiers stormed in, armored and armed, the governor's enforcers. Heavy boots pounded against the metal floor as they spread through the bar. "What's happening here?" the leader barked. His helmet turned toward the girl, then toward the human. The girl opened her mouth, but no words came. If she told them what she saw, this man would be arrested, maybe killed. But something in his eyes, cold, sharp, dangerous, made her hesitate. The soldiers stepped closer. The whole bar waited for her answer. The alien warrior girl, feared across star systems, felt her throat go dry. For the first time in her life, she didn't know what to do. The soldiers spread across the bar like a dark wave. Their boots thudded heavily on the floor, and their metal armor gleamed under the neon lights. The music had stopped. The laughter had died. Now, only the sound of rain tapping against the windows and the soldiers' footsteps filled the air. The alien girl's heart pounded in her chest. She could still see that mark on the human's chest in her mind, glowing faintly under the torn shirt before he covered it. The crest of the Terran vanguard. It wasn't possible. Couldn't be real. The leader of the soldiers stepped forward, his voice sharp and cold. "What's happening here? We heard trouble." His helmet turned, first toward the girl, then toward the human waiter. The girl felt the weight of his stare. If she said the wrong thing, the soldiers would tear this place apart. They would drag the human away, maybe kill him, maybe kill everyone who had seen the mark. She swallowed hard. The human didn't move. He didn't even look nervous. He just stood there, calm, his hands at his sides like none of this mattered. "Nothing," the girl finally said. Her voice sounded strange even to herself. "Just a drunken mistake." The soldiers looked at her, then at the human. One of them stepped closer. "Who are you?" he asked the man. "Just a worker," the human replied quietly. But there was something in his voice, something so steady, so certain, that the soldiers hesitated. The leader narrowed his eyes. "Show me your shirt," he ordered. The bar went completely silent. The girl's stomach dropped. If they saw the mark, it was over. The human slowly turned his head toward the leader. His face stayed calm, but his eyes were like cold steel. "No," he said softly. The soldier stiffened. "What did you say?" "I said no," the man repeated, his voice steady. The soldiers shifted uneasily. No one disobeyed the governor's men. No one said no. But this man had said it like he didn't care who they were, like he wasn't afraid at all. The girl felt the air change. The soldiers didn't notice it, but she did. She was a warrior. She knew the feeling before a fight began. The leader stepped closer, hand on his weapon. "You'll do as you're told." The human didn't move. For a moment, the whole bar held its breath. And then the girl did something she didn't fully understand. She grabbed the human's arm. "He works for me," she said quickly. "This is my guard. He stays with me." The leader turned his helmet toward her. "Your guard? A human?" "Yes," she snapped. Her voice grew stronger. "Is there a problem?" The soldiers looked at each other. The Zareth warrior clans had special status in the city. Even the governor's men hesitated to challenge them without good reason. Finally, the leader grunted. "Keep your guard under control. Next time we take him in." They turned and left, their heavy footsteps fading into the rain. The bar stayed silent for a long moment. Then the noise slowly returned. People whispering, glasses clinking, music starting again. But it wasn't the same. Everyone kept glancing at the human, at the girl, at the door where the soldiers had left. The girl sat back down, her hands shaking. The human finally looked at her. "Why?" he asked simply. She stared at him. "Why what? Why lie for me?" His voice stayed calm, but there was something behind it now. Something heavier. She didn't know how to answer. She didn't even know why she had done it. Maybe because the soldiers scared her less than the thought of them discovering the truth. She leaned closer, her voice low. "That mark, it's real, isn't it?" He didn't answer, but the way his jaw tightened told her everything. The girl swallowed. "The Terran vanguard. Everyone says they were destroyed." The man's eyes stayed on hers. "Everyone believes a lot of things." Her breath caught. She had grown up hearing stories about the Terran vanguard, humans who fought like demons, who refused to bow to any empire. Her people had even fought against them once, long ago, and barely survived. But the empires had united and crushed humanity's fleets. At least, that's what history said. Yet here was a man with the mark burned into his skin. A man who didn't fear soldiers or death or anything at all. The girl realized her hands were trembling. She was a Zareth warrior. She didn't fear anyone. But tonight, she wasn't so sure. The human stood slowly. "You shouldn't have seen it," he said softly. "It would have been better if you hadn't." "Better for who?" she asked. "For you," he replied. And then he turned toward the back door, like a man who had already decided to disappear. The girl stared after him, heart pounding, as rain blew in through the open door, because deep down, she knew one thing for certain. The galaxy wasn't ready for whatever he was. The rain outside the bar hit the streets harder now, as if the whole city held its breath. The alien girl stood frozen near the table, staring at the man who was quietly walking toward the back door. He didn't rush. He didn't look scared. He didn't even glance at the soldier's trail fading into the darkness outside. He moved like someone who already knew no one could stop him. The alien girl grabbed her cloak and followed. Something deep inside told her if she let him leave, she would never see him again. And she had too many questions. The rest of the bar watched in silence. Whispers spread again. That human. What was that mark? Could it be true? The old stories. Impossible humanity was defeated long ago. But even as they spoke, none of them dared to follow. Outside, the night air was cold. Rainwater dripped from the metal roofs above, forming puddles across the narrow alleys. The man stopped under a flickering streetlight, his torn shirt sticking to his skin from the rain. The girl finally caught up to him, breathing hard. "Wait," she said sharply. He didn't turn around. "You owe me answers," she continued. "The soldiers would have taken you. I saved you." Finally, he looked over his shoulder. His eyes were calm, but there was something behind them, a storm hidden in still waters. "I didn't ask you to," he said quietly. The girl clenched her fists. "You think you can just walk away? After what I saw?" He turned fully now, his gaze locking on hers. "You saw nothing," he said softly. The words were simple, but the way he spoke them, it was like a command, like a law written into the air itself. For a moment, she couldn't speak. She was a Zareth warrior. Her people feared no one. They fought the strongest armies in the galaxy and never bowed. But standing here under the rain with his eyes on her, she felt small. The girl finally shook her head. "That mark. Forget it," he interrupted. His tone was still calm, but his voice carried a sharp edge now. "Forget you saw it. Forget me. Go home, alien." Something about the way he said alien made her chest tighten. Like she was the outsider here. She took a step closer. "I can't," she said. "My people know that mark. If the others find out." His eyes turned cold. "Then make sure they don't." The girl froze. This wasn't a threat spoken with anger or hate. It was worse. He said it the way someone might talk about the weather. Plain. Empty. Like he was stating a fact. If the secret got out, people would die. The rain dripped between them. Finally, the girl asked the question she feared most. "Are you one of them?" He didn't answer right away. "Terran Vanguard," she whispered. "That's what the stories call them. Humans who made even the empires bleed." He tilted his head slightly. "Stories," he said softly. "They never tell the whole truth." Her heart pounded. If he was one of them, if even a single Terran Vanguard soldier was alive, it meant humanity was far more dangerous than the galaxy believed. She stepped back slowly. "Why hide here?" she asked. "Why play the part of a waiter if you are?" "Because," he cut in sharply, "sometimes the dead should stay dead." Those words sent a chill through her bones. She looked at him, rain running down her face. "The soldiers won't stop," she warned. "If they learn the truth, they'll send more." He glanced at the dark sky above. "Let them." The way he said it, like one man against armies, didn't worry him at all. The girl realized then, he wasn't running because he was afraid. He was hiding because he didn't want to be found. And something told her, the galaxy should be grateful for that. Suddenly, heavy footsteps echoed through the alley. The soldiers were back. A spotlight swept over the walls as a voice shouted through a speaker. "Human, by order of the governor, surrender yourself." The girl's heart jumped. How did they find him so fast? She turned to warn him, but the man was already gone. One moment he was standing under the streetlight. The next, he was in the shadows, moving so silently she almost missed it. The soldiers stormed into the alley, weapons raised. They didn't see him at first. The girl's breath caught as she spotted him above them, climbing the side of the building like a ghost. He looked down once, his eyes meeting hers. Silent. Warning. Then he vanished over the rooftop before the soldiers even realized he was gone. The girl stood there in the rain as the soldiers searched the alleys, confused and angry. She didn't tell them where he went, because deep down, she wasn't sure if she wanted them to find him. And for the first time in her life, the warrior girl felt like she had stepped into something far bigger than herself, something the whole galaxy had forgotten to fear. The rain kept falling on the metal city, cold and heavy. Soldiers filled the alleyways now, their armor clanking as they moved in groups, scanning every shadow with bright searchlights. The alien girl stood in the corner, watching as they searched for the human. He was gone from sight, vanished like smoke in the wind. But she knew he was still near. She could feel it. Spread out, the leader barked. He can't be far. Blaster rifles hummed as the soldiers aimed them at doors, windows, dark rooftops. The whole block was locked down. Drones flew overhead, red eyes glowing, scanning everything. But the man they hunted moved like no one she had ever seen before. One soldier suddenly shouted, "On the roof!" Lights flashed upward. The human stood at the edge of the building, rain dripping from his torn shirt, eyes glowing faintly in the dark like some predator. "Don't move!" the leader yelled, raising his rifle. The human didn't flinch. He looked down at them with calm, empty eyes. The girl's heart pounded. These soldiers had no idea what they were facing. One of them fired. A bright shot of energy lit up the night. But the man wasn't there anymore. He moved so fast the girl almost didn't see it. 1 second he was on the roof. The next, he dropped into the middle of the soldiers like a shadow falling from the sky. The first soldier didn't even scream. A sharp motion, he was on the ground. Another swung his weapon, but the human twisted it away, sending him crashing into a wall. It wasn't wild or messy. It was silent, precise, like he had done this 1,000 times before. The girl watched in frozen shock. The stories about the Terran vanguard said they fought like demons, like death itself had trained them. Now she believed it. "Fire! Fire!" the commander roared. Energy blasts filled the alley. Bright bolts cut through the rain, lighting up the walls. But the human kept moving, weaving through the shots, his body a blur. Soldiers fell one after another. Weapons kicked away, armor smashed, throats grabbed and silenced. He didn't kill them. He didn't have to. When the smoke cleared, a dozen soldiers lay groaning on the ground. Their weapons were scattered, their armor dented, but none were dead. The man stood in the center, calm as before, rain dripping from his hair. The last soldier backed away slowly, his rifle shaking in his hands. The human turned his head slightly toward him. "Run," he said softly. The soldier didn't wait. He dropped his weapon and fled into the night. The alien girl finally stepped forward, her voice trembling. What are you?" The man glanced at her but didn't answer. He picked up a fallen blaster and tossed it aside like it was junk. More soldiers would come soon. Drones buzzed overhead. Alarms began to wail in the distance. He looked toward the rooftops, then at her. "Do you want to live?" he asked. She froze. "What?" "They'll come for you too," he said. "You saw the mark. They won't let you walk away." Her stomach dropped. She hadn't thought of that. "Then come," he said simply. Before she could speak, he started moving, fast and silent, through the alleys. She hesitated only a moment before following. They ran through narrow streets as searchlights swept overhead. Sirens wailed closer now, soldiers shouting in the distance. The human moved like he knew the city better than anyone. Through broken buildings, across old bridges, down forgotten tunnels. He never stopped, never slowed. The girl struggled to keep up. Her people were fast, but he was faster. At last, they slipped into an old transport station deep under the city. Dust covered the walls. The air smelled of rust and mold. No one had used this place in years. The man finally stopped near a broken control panel. "They won't find us here," he said. The girl leaned against the wall, breathing hard. "You fight like Like the old stories, she said. The Terran Vanguard. He didn't look at her. The stories are dead. Are they? She asked softly. Because what I saw tonight. The galaxy doesn't have men like you anymore. He turned his head slowly toward her. Rainwater dripped from his hair, his face unreadable. That's the point, he said. Footsteps echoed in the tunnels. The girl stiffened. The soldiers had found the entrance. The man checked the shadows above, then the far tunnel ahead. He seemed to measure everything with one cold glance. They'll flood this place soon, he said. We need to leave. She hesitated. Why are they so afraid of you? He looked at her for a long moment. Because, he said softly, they should be. Then he was moving again, deeper into the tunnels, leaving the girl to decide whether to follow. And she did. Because whatever he was, whatever secret he carried, she knew one thing now. This man was about to change everything. The tunnels stretched on for miles under the city. Broken lights flickered on the walls, dripping water echoed through the darkness, and the smell of rust filled the air. The alien girl followed the human in silence. He moved fast, his footsteps almost soundless on the wet floor. Even after all the chaos above, the soldiers, the chase, the fight, he looked calm. Like this wasn't the first time people had tried to hunt him. Finally, he stopped in an abandoned control room deep underground. Old screens covered in dust glowed faintly as he pressed a few buttons. A single dim light turned on above them. This place is safe, he said quietly. The girl stood near the door, watching him carefully. Her heart was still racing from everything she had seen. The fight in the alleys. The way he moved faster than soldiers could react. The mark on his chest that glowed like fire when the shirt ripped open. She had grown up on stories about the Terran Vanguard, the human warriors who once made the galaxy tremble. But the empires had destroyed them centuries ago. At least that's what everyone believed. Now one stood before her. She finally spoke. You have to tell me the truth. The man didn't look at her. He was busy checking the door controls. No, I don't. Her voice grew sharper. You can't expect me to stay quiet. After what I saw. After what you did to those soldiers. He turned then, his eyes locking on hers. They were cold, unreadable, like looking into deep water. You want the truth? He asked softly. She nodded. For a long moment he said nothing. Only the dripping water filled the silence. Then he slowly pulled his torn shirt aside. The mark on his chest glowed faintly in the dim light. Sharp lines. A circle crossed by 3 blades. The galaxy calls us the Terran Vanguard, he said quietly. We called ourselves something else. The Last Guard. The girl's breath caught. We were soldiers, he continued. Built for war. Trained for one purpose. To protect Earth and its people at any cost. But history says you were defeated, she said. The empires destroyed you. A faint smile touched his lips, but it wasn't warm. That's what they wanted everyone to believe. The girl stared at him. So it's true. Some of you survived. Not some, he said softly. One. The words hit her like a blade. One, she repeated. He nodded slowly. I watched my brothers fall. I watched our fleets burn. I watched the empires unite to wipe us out because they feared what we could do. His voice was calm, but behind it was something heavy. Pain buried so deep it had turned into stone. The girl shivered. She had seen war. She had lost comrades. But this man, he had lost everything. And now you hide, she said. He looked at her sharply. Would you rather I didn't? She froze, because suddenly she understood. If the galaxy learned even one Vanguard soldier survived, it wouldn't just be soldiers hunting him. Entire empires would come. Because the Terran Vanguard were more than soldiers. They were the reason the alien empires had united in the first place. To stop humanity from becoming too powerful. The man turned back to the door controls. The soldiers won't stop now, he said. They saw too much tonight. They'll tell the governor. He'll send assassins next. The girl hesitated before asking, Then what will you do? He didn't answer right away. Finally, he said, What I always do. Survive. A faint noise echoed through the tunnels. The girl stiffened. The man raised his head slightly. He had heard it too. Boots. Dozens of them. The soldiers were coming again. The girl grabbed her weapon. We have to run. But the man stayed calm, checking the shadows. Too late. They've surrounded the exits. She looked at him in disbelief. Then what now? Fight? He finally turned to her, eyes cold. If they force me to, he said softly. There was no fear in his voice. No panic. Just certainty. The girl's stomach tightened. She had seen him fight before. He hadn't killed those soldiers in the alley. But she was starting to think that wasn't because he couldn't. It was because he chose not to. And if he stopped holding back. The girl tightened her grip on her blade. Somewhere deep in the tunnels, a commander's voice shouted orders. Searchlights cut through the dark. The man looked at her once. Stay behind me, he said. She swallowed hard. Why? His eyes glowed faintly in the dark. Because when this starts, he said softly, I can't promise anyone will be left standing. The tunnels shook as heavy boots marched closer. The sound echoed like distant thunder rolling through the underground. Water dripped from the ceiling, each drop loud in the tense silence. The alien girl stood near the door, blade ready, her heart pounding fast. She could hear the soldiers' voices now. Commands shouted, weapons loaded, searchlights cutting through the dark corridors. They were getting closer. The human didn't move at first. He stood calm, one hand against the cold wall, his eyes fixed on the main tunnel where the soldiers would appear. He looked like a man carved from stone, unshaken even as the enemy surrounded them. Finally, he spoke in a quiet voice. They want me alive. The girl turned sharply. Alive? Then why bring this many soldiers? He looked at her. Because they don't know what I am yet. But they will. The weight of his words sent a chill down her spine. The first drones appeared, small machines with glowing red eyes, buzzing through the tunnels ahead of the soldiers. Their scanners swept across the walls, searching every shadow. They'll see us soon, the girl whispered. The man finally moved. He stepped into the center of the room, calm and slow, as if the approaching army didn't matter. The girl stared at him. Do you even have a plan? He looked over his shoulder. Yes. She waited, but he didn't explain. The tension grew heavier with each passing second. The soldiers' footsteps grew louder. The hum of their energy rifles filled the air. Then the first beam of light cut through the doorway. The soldiers entered in formation. Shields raised, rifles ready, drones floating above them. The commander's voice rang out. Human, surrender now. You are surrounded. The man didn't move. The alien girl stood frozen at the edge of the room, her grip tight on her blade. She had fought many battles, but something about tonight felt different. Like the air itself was waiting for something terrible to happen. The commander stepped forward. This is your only warning. Finally, the man spoke. You should leave, he said softly. The soldiers paused. The words weren't loud, but the way he said them, like it wasn't a threat, like it was simple truth. The commander laughed bitterly. You think you can stop all of us? The man's eyes glowed faintly in the dark. I know I can. The soldiers moved first. Drones locked onto the man, weapons whirring as they prepared to fire. The girl shouted, Wait! But it was too late. Energy blasts filled the room, lighting it up like a storm of fire. The girl flinched, expecting to see the man fall. Instead, he moved. Not like a man. Not like anything she had ever seen. He slipped through the gunfire like it was water, each movement fast but precise. A rifle was torn from one soldier's hands before the man slammed him into the wall. A drone fell sparking to the ground as he grabbed another soldier's shield and used it to block 3 more shots. The room became chaos. The girl could barely follow his movements. One soldier swung a blade too slow. The man sidestepped, struck once, and the soldier dropped, gasping for breath. Another aimed from behind, but the man twisted, the shot burning empty air where he had just stood. The commander shouted for them to hold formation, but the formation was already broken. This wasn't a fight. It was a storm tearing through them. and he hadn't even used a weapon yet. More soldiers poured in from the tunnels. Drones buzzed overhead, firing wildly. The girl joined the fight now, her blade flashing as she cut down 2 drones rushing toward her. But even she knew this wasn't her battle. This was his. One soldier shouted, "He's not human." Another yelled, "Call for reinforcements." The man grabbed the commander by the collar and slammed him against the wall hard enough to crack the metal. The room went still for a moment. The man leaned close, his voice low but sharp as a blade. "Next time," he said, "bring an army." Then he threw the commander aside like he weighed nothing. The surviving soldiers stumbled back, dragging their injured comrades toward the tunnels. "Fall back!" someone shouted. The girl watched in disbelief as the once confident soldiers fled into the darkness. The man stood silent in the center of the room, his breathing calm, his eyes glowing faintly in the dark like an echo of something far older than war itself. Finally, he turned to her. "This place isn't safe anymore," he said. She swallowed hard. What are you?" He didn't answer right away. He just looked toward the tunnels where the soldiers had fled. "They'll be back," he said softly. "And next time they won't come to capture me. They'll come to kill." The tunnels were silent now. The soldiers had retreated, dragging the wounded with them, leaving only broken weapons and smoking drones behind. The air smelled of burnt metal. The alien girl stood frozen near the doorway, her blade still in hand. Her heart pounded hard in her chest. She had fought many battles, but she had never seen anything like this. One man, dozens of soldiers, and he had defeated them like they were nothing. She looked at him now, at the human standing in the middle of the room, his shirt torn, rainwater still dripping from his hair. He wasn't even breathing hard. He looked calm, too calm, like the fight hadn't been a fight at all. The man turned toward her. His eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, the strange mark on his chest still visible through the torn fabric. "We have to move," he said quietly. The girl didn't move. "Move where?" "Somewhere they can't follow," he replied. She tightened her grip on her blade. "They'll send more soldiers. A lot more." "Yes." He didn't deny it. "But not tonight. They'll regroup first. Plan better. Next time they won't try to capture me. They'll come to kill me." His calm voice made her stomach twist. She had seen many warriors talk about death, but no one spoke about it like him, like it was nothing, like he had seen it so many times, it didn't scare him anymore. Finally, she asked the question that had burned in her mind since the bar. "Why hide?" she whispered. "If you are Terran Vanguard, if you are what the old stories say, why live like this? Why pretend to be a simple man?" He looked at her for a long moment before answering. "Because," he said slowly, "the galaxy sleeps better believing we are gone." She frowned. "What do you mean?" He stepped closer, his voice low. "The empires united because of us. Not to rule the stars. Not for peace. They united because they were afraid. Afraid of humans. Afraid of what we could become." She felt a chill run through her. "All those wars," she whispered. He nodded. "They ended when the empires came together to destroy the Terran Vanguard. They told the galaxy it was for peace, that humanity was too violent, too dangerous." His eyes darkened. "But the truth? They feared us because we were winning." The girl's breath caught. If that was true, then history itself was a lie. She looked at him with new eyes, not as a simple man, not even as a soldier, but as someone who carried the weight of a war the galaxy wanted to forget. Finally, she asked, "And you? What do you want?" For the first time, he hesitated. The question hung in the air. He looked away, toward the dark tunnels where the soldiers had fled. "I wanted to be left alone," he said softly. The girl studied him carefully. "But now they've seen you." "Yes," he said. "Now it won't stop." They started moving again, deeper into the tunnels. He walked ahead, silent, his eyes scanning every shadow like he expected danger at every turn. The girl followed close behind, her mind spinning. She didn't know why she was still here. She could leave. She could run far from this man and the chaos that followed him. But something kept her near. Maybe it was the way he fought like death itself moved through him. Maybe it was the way the soldiers feared him even as they hunted him. Or maybe it was because deep down she knew the galaxy was about to change, and she wanted to see how. Finally, they reached the far end of the tunnels. A broken maintenance door led to the city's edge, where the storm still raged over the metal rooftops. The man stopped and looked out at the dark horizon. "They'll call for reinforcements," he said quietly. "Warships, drones, assassins." The girl tightened her grip on her cloak. "Then what will you do?" He looked at her with calm, steady eyes. "I'll stop them." The way he said it, like it wasn't pride, wasn't arrogance, just simple fact, made her shiver. She stepped closer. "Let me help you." He raised an eyebrow. "Help me?" "Yes," she said firmly. "I've fought wars too. I know how to kill soldiers. I know how to survive. You can't do this alone." He studied her for a long moment. Finally, he nodded once. "You follow me, you don't run," he said. "Not when it gets worse." "I don't run," she said. Lightning split the sky above as they stepped out into the storm. Behind them, the tunnels lay in silence. Ahead, the city lights glowed under the rain. The man walked first, the alien girl close beside him. Somewhere in the distance, soldiers were regrouping. Warships would soon be on their way. The hunt wasn't over. It had only just begun.